Yo, this is Joel Davis,
And I'm Gracie Davis,
and this is Greater Than Real Estate.
where we go deep to find out who you really are beyond real estate.
Welcome back to Greater Than Real Estate. We have an amazing guest here, Jarielle Wilson with DOS Pros Realty. Jarielle, how are you doing today?
I'm good. Hey, neighbor. How you doing?
We're doing good. So, hey, we want to give a little breakdown of where you grew up, how'd you get into real estate, kind of break it down for us. Go back to your younger days, where you grew up, and then, college, if you didn't go to college, and then real estate.
Okay. I grew up in Dallas, born and raised. So a long time, okay? My mom's been an agent for about 14 years.
Wow.
And she's been trying to get me into the business for about that same time. But, of course, I had to go on my own journey in life.
Yeah.
And so I got licensed at the end of 2020, so right out of COVID.
Yep.
Went to a couple of colleges. You can say I majored in college. And so here I am now, just enjoying being in real estate and having a good time.
That's awesome. So did you go straight from college to real estate, or did you start out in the corporate world, or what made you finally take that leap into real estate?
So I actually did not. I'm not going to tell y'all how long ago it was I was in college, but no, I did go through the corporate route. I actually did a couple of different things. I went to dental assisting, and then I intended initially to be a hygienist. I love teeth. But life just took me in a different direction, got back into the corporate world, and I had my youngest baby, 2019, and I realized I was missing out on a lot of life with my two oldest, and I didn't want to do that anymore. And then the world shut down out of nowhere, 2020 with COVID. So, hey, real estate, what's up, girl? And so that's kind of how I started. Got licensed, like I said, in 2020. My little one was sick for the first 18 months, so I didn't really jump in the way that I wanted to head first. I didn't actually do my first deal until January 22.
Wow.
Yeah, once we finally got that little one where he needed to be.
Yeah.
He's doing great now, so that's where we were. Turns out it was just his adenoids, of all things.
What is the adenoids for the people that don't know?
Adenoids, they're like around here.
Yeah.
Usually, we hear a lot of people get their tonsils removed.
Yeah.
But they could not pinpoint what was wrong with him. We were seeing the pulmonologist, we were seeing ENT, we were seeing sleep specialists and all kind of folks. And then all that was happening is he was having these flare-ups with his adenoids. And, doctor's appointments, you don't ever get in there while you're sick, right?
Yeah.
Like, it's literally like, oh, we have this appointment 3 months out when your ear infection's cleared up. So they weren't catching it. And finally, the allergist was like, I think we need to take another look. And it just so happened to be, it lined up perfectly with the flare-up.
Wow.
Wow.
And they got his little adenoids removed, and then my baby could hear us a little bit better. We didn't realize how much he was struggling.
Wow.
And the ENT who did his surgery was like, okay, yeah, it definitely was the adenoids.
Wow.
So, yeah,
Wow.
but he's good. He's probably the most active of the three kids. But yeah, that was a part of the journey. But I was glad that I got to experience that time. I was at home with my children, so I got a little bit different of an experience in that way.
Yeah. So tell us about your kids and your family a little bit more.
Well, I'm recently a divorcee, so y'all know somebody. Amen. My sweet bonus baby, my daughter, I met her dad when she was 2. She will be 18, so that tells you how long I've been in this child's life. That is my baby. Can't tell me any otherwise. And then I have my 2 little boys, 9 and 4, and they are just polar opposites. Blaze is super relaxed. Amari is like, where is the party? And he
Yeah.
came in this world kicking just like that and has not stopped. His mom is old, man.
Hey, you're still 29, right?
You know what? I received that. Bless you. Bless you, bless you. But no, they're cool. It's interesting to watch their different little personalities. They're all just so entirely different. It just amazes me how you can be raised by the same parents and your personality is your own, and they show you who they are very early.
Yeah.
Very early. So it's cool.
I love asking this question to people when they have kids. What is the one thing that you've learned about yourself since having kids?
That the world will lie to you about who you are. And you get to take that off when you are learning to reparent by way of your children. I told you I'm a gangster and I didn't want to cry, but and I learned a lot through the 3 children.
Yeah.
So my oldest, she came into my life in a time I was just 21 when I met her dad. So things were very different for me then. There's a lot of growing up for me to do. I came into this ready-made family, essentially, and I had been living a very worldly life, if you will, and she didn't get the best parts of me. My middle child, that's when I started to grow up. My baby is getting something totally different, and I feel like I owe my daughter the world at this point. She came into a picture it this way. I think God talks to me like an analogy. So the way I explained it to her when we had our conversation was, you came into a house that somebody had abandoned. There was full of trash. And when I had your brother, I started to clean that house out. By the time I had the youngest baby, he had a house that was pretty clean. And if God so blesses me with another one, those children are coming to a totally different household, me being the household.
Yeah.
But you were there through all of those transitions. And she understood that. And now that she's a young lady herself, she'll be 18 here soon, it's shown me a lot about who the world tells us we are.
Yeah.
Versus, and I'm not going to preach on y'all, but versus who God says we are.
Yeah.
And she's getting to see me walking a totally different walk now.
Praise the Lord for that.
Yeah, and it's been a challenge, but there's been a lot of healing that has happened, and I'm that's my baby. That is I love my boys, but my girl has been here through everything. So yeah, that's what I've learned.
I think the cool part of it, and I see it from a Facebook side of you, is how transparent you are. But I'm going to imagine that probably funnels over into your kids' lives. And I think that part right there, the transparency of like, hey, I wasn't at my best during that time, but how you can see yourself growing over the years, I would say is probably so impactful for your kids to see that, because a world tells us to be perfect. You have to have the nice car, the perfect life that everybody sees, but that's not perfect. We know that.
Right.
We all know that that's not perfect, but the fact that you've walked through that, you own that, and you've been able to explain that to them, like that just speaks volumes of your character and who you've become. And your past is your past. That's not who you are. You wish you could have had a better time at the beginning with your daughter, but that story isn't finished.
Right.
You have so much time left with her that you're going to be able to impact her. So that's awesome.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And how much she's been able to learn. I know, like, just from my own personal, like, circumstances, like with my own mom, it's like you coming to a point of understanding, like, sometimes you put your parents on, like, a pedestal, like, they're perfect, like, I have to be like that, and, like, realizing they're human too, and, like, they're learning through life just like we are, and just you having the vulnerability and, like, the relationship with your daughter to be able to say, like, everything about who you've been, who you are, and who you're continuing to work to be. It's just, I'm sure, like, has given you that great bond with your daughter.
Yeah.
So
I feel like even though I don't get to see her as much because our dynamic is a little bit different with the co-parenting situation. Again, she is also a child that was here. So, she has a mother as well, right?
Yeah.
So that's not to take away from that at all. But I get to love her in a way that I didn't have before simply because now there's this kind of boundless ability where she's a young adult now. And I'm looking forward to what our future looks like together. I look forward to who she's becoming as a young lady in Christ. And I really, really am just happy that she sees it, even though I don't see her as much.
Yeah.
When we talk about God, we talk about what it is to be a daughter of the Most High. And she has this confidence now that she didn't have before. And truly, I do too, because biblically speaking, now I know who I am.
Yeah.
And there is a power in that. It's not an arrogance. It's a genuine, if I am my Father's daughter and he were here in the physical, how would I be carrying myself in this realm?
Yeah.
What posture would I have? How would I be treating people? I'm not one that sits high and looks low because I don't feel like that's what we're supposed to do. And just to see my daughter blossoming and starting to understand that, or she's asking questions, she goes to, she wants to go to church, she wants to do these are things that she's exploring on her own. And I'm just happy that in some regard she was able to see it. Same thing with my little one. My 9-year-old walks into the kitchen the other day and he wants to have Bible study with me. He's like, Mommy, today at summer camp, we learned in 2:12 that da-da-da-da-da. I'm not like, what was the book, baby? 2:12. No, but what? The book. I was like, 2:12. So, but it's just cool to see that they're wanting to have these conversations. I don't force them. I don't do anything. I just exist truly, and they are seeing it, and it lets me know that I'm doing what I'm supposed to do. I don't impose on anybody. I just try to walk what I talk the best that I can. And it's just cool.
Yeah.
I like it.
That's awesome. So tell us about your own faith journey, because you've kind of given us a little bit of backstory, but tell, the audience about your faith journey and how you got to where you are now.
Well, it's been a little over a year since I asked my ex-husband for a divorce. And it wasn't something that I decided to do just off of a whim. We're talking a long time. And I had prayed and prayed and prayed. And I just really wanted to do what God wanted for me in my life. And that prayer that we pray, Lord, if they ain't supposed to be here, right?
Yeah.
And you're not necessarily talking about anybody specifically, just, Lord, if there are any circumstances in my life that are hindering my purpose here, please shed light. And, my kid's dad is a great guy. So that's not to say anything in that. It just wasn't where I was supposed to be. And it left me in a place where I had no choice but to fall on full trust in God. So in the four walls of my little apartment, my boys were with their dad. And I just remember crying. I was depressed for a minute and I couldn't understand it because I'm like, God, we talked about this. I'm supposed to be going full force at this point. And God was like, girl, who said that? It was kind of like one of those things. And I remember sitting on my bed and I felt so many different emotions just coursing through my body. And I remember just being like, God, where are you? And I heard him in spirit say, I'm right here, daughter. I never left. It was you that was running from me. But now that we're here, let's talk. And man, just literally a lot of talking, a lot of learning to trust. And I just remember coming across, I know everybody's heard of the law of, what's it called? The law of attraction. Everybody's heard of that to some degree.
Yeah.
I came across the law of assumption. And I started reading. There's this gentleman, his name was Neville Goddard, I started kind of studying that, and he talked a lot of scripture. I don't believe in everything Neville had to say.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes he kind of erred on the side, but I take the message and leave the rest, right? I take what I'm supposed to get. And I just remember learning through the law of assumption what blind faith actually looks like. The church teaches us that we're supposed to have it, but they don't equip you on what that looks like when there's anxiety running through your body. When you are praying to God and saying, God, I trust you to do such and such, but then your mind and your body is like, no, we don't. Like we don't have those tools necessarily.
Yeah.
And again, the enemy of the world has poured so many different lies into us.
Yep.
And it robs us of a real relationship with God.
Mm-hmm.
And so I had to learn to strip all that flesh off. And it's just been a year of rocking and rolling. And I hear you, Lord. I don't want to see what's going on, but I hear you. There's been a lot of that. And I finally have found comfort in just existing in a space where my circumstances absolutely do not matter. And we've just been rocking and rolling ever since. So that's kind of been my walk.
That's awesome. I love the the aspect of your circumstances not affecting you. We, at our church, we talk about how it's not the temporal, but it's the eternal thought process, and that, not allowing what's going to happen right now to affect us, but, asking the Lord, like, hey, what are you trying to teach me right here? Not why. Like, I've been in the position of like, why? Like, why, God? Why are you allowing this to happen?
Right.
But the moment that you shift that mindset of like, okay, what are you trying to teach me? Because you're going to get so many peaks, so many valleys in this life. The quicker you can get out of the valley, which sometimes the Lord is like, hey, quick isn't what I'm trying to have you do. But it's just so cool when you flip that mindset to have that eternal aspect, because that is the joy, because we know what is coming, and
Absolutely.
that this is not, what we're in right now is not forever. So.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
I think one of so I say like affirmations and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And when I was going through it, when I was in the lowest of the valleys, I started to say, even when it doesn't look like it's working in my favor, it is working in my favor.
Mm-hmm.
And that just reminded me of, yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I shall fear no evil.
Mm-hmm.
And literally, I can look back at this last year of my life and things looking like they were just absolutely fighting against me, because it's so easy for us to think that, the devil is busy. No, sometimes we are just God is doing things. Things got to happen. I remember I felt like I was super lonely at one point. I lost all my family, not literally lose them, but there was some space that needed to be had. And some of these relationships that I had to let go of didn't end in the best. But what I can liken that to now, as I look back, is God was like, this wasn't the devil attacking you. I had to strip some things from you, because if you still had all of these filters coming in, you would not rely on me. I needed you to have me.
Yeah.
And I can see that now. When I was going through it, it just felt like, what is happening?
Yeah.
But now, hindsight is 20/20. I can see everything. So, this had to happen in order for this to happen. I can literally see things lining up in certain ways. And so now circumstances can be a little shaky, but I just catch my balance and just keep going.
Yeah.
So, yeah, fun times.
That's awesome. So let's talk about more of like your real estate journey. So when you started in real estate, kind of how'd you get started? What company did you start with? Did you have any mentors, things like that were encouraging you during that time?
I've been really blessed. I've had not necessarily mentors until recently, but I did have a lot of people who spoke life into what they felt I was capable of doing. I started off at Century 21 right in South Arlington, and they were great. But again, I had a very sick baby, so I wasn't able to contribute.
Yeah.
When I say very sick, adenoids. It just looked like something else.
Yeah.
So, but we had those things we had to work through. So I really wasn't able to pour into my business that way. I did learn a lot about myself then too, because we are in a business where it is important to brand yourself.
Yep.
Because we change hands with brokerages all the time. Your clients are going to follow you, not necessarily your broker. So I made the decision, okay, I need somewhere where I can have a little bit more flexibility to just be who I am. And who I am then is very different than who I am now. Partner with EXP, found some great colleagues there who poured in. Just wasn't my time. Just, transitional things were happening in life. And then in April, I got with my new brokerage, DOS Pros. I've known our franchise owner since I was like 19. So it's funny how life comes full circle. She's one of my mom's good friends.
Oh.
And I remember she called me in January when she was starting her franchise. And I was like, oh no, I haven't really given my broker my full attention. I want to, make sure that I'm being fair here. So give me 6 months. I'm going to stick to their training. I'm going to do everything they tell me to do 6 months. And then stuff with NAR started happening. And I still wasn't off of my previous train. I was just like, okay, I really got to jump into this. And I prayed about it, and I was like, okay, God, I need leadership. I need somebody who is going to be able to help me fine-tune some things. I'd done some work in the business. I'd done a little bit of stuff, but I wanted to take my business to another level. And I wanted to make sure that I didn't have any leaks or cracks in my foundation. So with that said, I started praying for leadership. Well, here comes Janetta. She calls me. It's 3 months in now, and I'm thinking over the phone. I'm like, Janetta, we had this conversation. It's not been 6 months, honey. I told you I'm going to call you in 6 months. But this ironically happened. The conversation happened like 2 days after I said my prayer. And she said, I just want to show you what we have to offer. Just come, and we can talk about it later. Okay. I prayed about it again. And God was like, girl, you're going to go to this brokerage. So at this point, I'm like, okay. All right, Lord, you thumped me in the forehead enough times. I'm going to go see what she has to say. I'd already made up in my mind. I don't think she knows this, but before we actually sat down that next week, I knew that's where I was going to be. But I let her do her thing, gave me her presentation. Whole time I'm just like, look, lady, where's the paperwork? It is what it is. And it's just been a blessing. It has been amazing. The support I've had, just even in my personal, they don't get like super into my business, but if I'm not doing what they know that I'm capable of doing, they check in. They're like, hey, you're not just a number here. What's going on? Where can we offer support? And it's been phenomenal. It has been amazing to have just this community. It's definitely some community there.
Yeah.
And I'm happy.
That's awesome. I like the aspect of how they're checking in on you as a person, because I'm a firm believer that if you have, you're a good daughter, a good wife, or a good all this, and a good mother, like if you are executing on all those things, it is very hard, very, very hard, in my opinion, to suck at your job. If you are struggling in all those aspects, that's going to carry over into your job. Yeah. So I think that's awesome how they check in on you as a person, because a lot of these big box brokerages, you are a number.
Oh, yeah.
And so I think having that switch, and I think that's the big thing about, I think, great agents and, average and subpar agents is it's relational, not transactional. So that's just awesome that you've found that.
I agree. And this, this is not, I loved the team that I was with before. I move in a way that when God says move, I move. Yeah. It doesn't have anything to do with anybody else. It is literally, I go in prayer about what I'm supposed to do, not what the people around me are doing. And I know that when I'm walking in alignment, God is going to align the rest. So I don't worry about those things. So this is not to take anything away from my previous brokerages. I literally just prayed and
Yeah.
asked God to direct me.
Yeah.
But with that being said, yeah, for me it is more community. I'm definitely, who can I serve? Who can I take care of? The money will follow.
Yeah.
Eventually things will catch up there. But what connections can I make? And that's how I lead my business. I'm literally just here to serve.
That's awesome.
And so we shall see.
That's great.
Yeah.
So throughout your 4 years of being into the business so far, have there been any good books that have changed your real estate career?
I love Ricky Caruth's List to Last. He's got some good coaching in there. Krista Mayshore's I think it's called like 3 clients in 30 days or something like that. She's great. She's high energy. She's big on, you got to be on video. You got to be on video. She's big on that. And I've just been able to kind of tie in what I bring to the table with what these top performers have taught us. So now I'm kind of tying up all the loose ends. I'm with my new brokerage now and getting into the motion and really working on building up my community. It's been interesting to see how quickly things have started to change. With just some little tweaks here and there, because I always want to do it with my voice. I'll see something and you can give me the blueprint, but maybe I want to change the way this kitchen is set up, or I maybe want my closet over here, so it's really just kind of those fine tuning things. That's the season that I'm in, but I've sowed quite a bit of seeds and just waiting to go into my harvest year. But that's the only thing about choosing to do listings and new construction. You gotta wait. But ironically enough, that's the season that I'm in just in life. So it makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit more about like your social media presence. I know we talked about this before the podcast, but the different platforms that you like using and how you've been able to build kind of your network and your presence on social media.
So Facebook is primarily where I'm on. I'm working on strengthening my Instagram. I don't do Twitter. I don't do Twitter. I have a TikTok, but I do not use that platform because it is so easy to get distracted on TikTok. But Facebook is where I've really been able to build my community. Technically, my personal page is my business page, if you will. I just talk. Hey, I'm your neighbor, literally. I'm just your homegirl down the street, and I'm in real estate. How can I help you? It's kind of the thing that I do. And I'm just me. Same way I'm on here talking to you guys is absolutely the same that they get there. So it's been a little bit of a challenge, if you will, for Instagram because I do a lot of text-based content. And obviously Instagram doesn't really have that unless you make a post. So we're growing on there too. We are growing on there too, but definitely most of my audience is from my Facebook community. For sure.
So as you told us earlier, you were older. I feel like it's harder for older, and I don't think she's older people to get on social media and be themselves. What do you think has been so easy for you, or why has it been easier for you to be able to utilize that? Because I talk to older, seasoned agents that are like, well, I just, social media is just not my thing. What do you think it is for you?
Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and tell my age here. I came from the generation of Facebook that we started off on MySpace. We were coders, okay? We knew how to write everything. Facebook came and made it a little bit easier because we didn't have to do any coding. You still had to have a college email when I started using Facebook. I think Facebook may have come out in like 2005. I graduated high school in 2006.
Okay.
That's how old I am. But with that said, I've always felt comfortable because that's where I've always been. Instagram came not too long after, but I just never really hopped in there. So Facebook has just naturally been where it is for me. It's easier for me to just build there. and I'm just there, so it's a little bit easier to be consistent because again, it was just my personal page that Facebook was like, hey, you want to turn this into a content creator page? Sure. Like,
Yeah.
so it's just one of those things. Instagram is a little bit more intentional.
Yeah.
Versus Facebook, there's no strategy there for me. Like literally, I talk about what's on my mind,
Yeah.
and that's how I've created community there.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I like Facebook.
Yeah.
I like Facebook a lot.
Yeah.
Please, Mark, let us have Facebook for as long as we can. Amen.
So what do you feel like sets the real estate industry apart of other industries that you could be working in? And why do you enjoy it? And why are you so passionate about it?
I think that in my community, specifically Arlington, but just as who I am as an individual, there's a lot of things that we just don't talk about or we like to act doesn't exist. I love to see people who were told no win. I love to see people who are in circumstances that don't look favorable. I love the underdog.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of the times, especially in the areas that I serve, a lot of the time these people are told you will never have a home of your own. You will never do this or, I love working with those clients. I love being their prayer warrior. My clients will tell you I will cry or we stop and pray in the middle of the street. Like, come on, y'all, this ain't looking right. So let's go talk to our Father real quick. But I think the thing is I do find a joy in serving other people. It literally is like they won. Yes.
Yeah.
And to see that gives me, that's where I feel like my purpose is.
Yeah.
So that's why I love real estate. It gives me the opportunity to connect with a lot of folks. Even if they're not my client, let me put you in contact with somebody who can.
Yeah.
I'm not a person who lives in a mindset that I can't share this.
Yeah.
I'm probably an oversharer in that regard. But it's just because I simply believe that there's enough out there for everybody.
Yeah.
I live in Arlington. There's over 14,000 homes. I can't catch all them people. Like, there's just no way I can. It does me no good to try to hold this all in when there's literally somebody out there for all of us to serve and take care of.
Yeah.
So I just like it. I like connecting with my neighbors.
That's a great mindset to have.
Yeah, the no scarcity mindset. How long did it take you to have that?
I've been like that my entire
Oh,
life.
so you've always been like that.
I think that was kind of probably one of the detriments of my marriage. I pick up some shoes. Oh, that's not bad. He'd be like, what are you talking about? Are we looking at the same pair of shoes, beloved? But that's kind of always how I've been. I learn a new thing, and I'm so quick to be like, hey, guys, this is going to make all of us wealthy. Here, like, let's all do this. Come on over. Let's sit down. What are you doing? Whether I've seen it work for myself or not, I'm just like, listen, it may work for you. Like, let's try this strategy. Did you try this? And it's just been one of those things that I've always been. I've never been a person to gatekeep, if you will.
Yeah.
So I just kind of operate out of that, and I rest in the fact that my Father is the King of Kings.
Yeah.
Why wouldn't I have access to everything else?
Yeah.
But I think you have to truly believe that.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
I love
To
it.
you, being in the business for 4 years, success changes and your view changes of success. To you right now, what is success?
Success is simply being able to better serve my community. So I've started to film a lot of content for different outreaches in Arlington and the immediate surrounding areas. So we're going to start working here with the local Salvation Army. They have a great program there. I'm going to be reaching back out to different boys and girls programs, and I thought about becoming a big sister. But I really want to be able to pour into our community here.
Yeah.
Arlington's so big. A lot of people don't realize how big Arlington actually is. You can be in Arlington and still be 40 minutes from Arlington.
I never realized the amount of high schools they have in Arlington, and the amount of people that are in those high schools. Like I grew up in Oklahoma and we had 400 people in my grade. So we had like 1,200 altogether.
Yeah.
Gracie's school was like 1,000 people in her grade. And I'm like, what?
Yeah.
And there's like 7 other schools right next to you that have 1,000. I'm like, oh my gosh.
Yeah. I remember a friend of mine when I first moved I live on the north side. A friend of mine was like, hey, I ordered these cookies. Can you stop by? They're up the street from you. Can you stop by and get them? I said, girl, this is 30 minutes. You're closer in Mansfield than I am. You better go and get them cookies, girl, or they just going to be up there. 'Cause gas is high, beloved. I don't But, yeah, Arlington is huge. And so to me, I just really thought about, well, I live here. These are my neighbors. Like, why wouldn't I be talking to these people? I've done, business in Forney. I've done business in Fort Worth, of course, is just next door. But I've kind of been all over. But I'm just like, no, I can literally just serve in my community.
Yeah.
And so that's where I've started to kind of hyper-focus. Now, listen, I can help y'all too. But I'm just saying, it just makes sense for me to focus where I'm at because I've lived here for 8 years. And I know that this is my home.
Yeah.
So that's kind of where we are in that part of the business.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that. I'm passionate about Arlington as well. So
Too passionate.
born and raised. Yeah, born and raised. Got back as soon as I could
Yeah.
because I went to A&M. But
And I got drug here.
he got drug here because I told him we're going to Arlington. We're going back to Arlington.
Pick your battles,
But-
guys. Pick your battles.
But as far as I worked for the Cowboys, I worked for the Rangers. I'm a big sports girl.
Yep.
Miss Arlington and the Miss Texas pageant. Like, I'm all about Arlington. And people
See?
are like, why are you so hardcore Arlington? I'm like, why would you not be? Like, look at it.
I can agree with you. I remember when we first moved over here, a lot of people was like, why Arlington? Well, one, proximity. I mean, if you think about, I'm right off of 30.
Yeah.
I can go one direction, I'm in Fort Worth in 10 minutes. I
Yep.
can go
Yep.
the other direction, I'm in downtown Dallas in 20 minutes.
Yeah.
Where
Yeah.
else do I need to be?
Yeah.
And I don't go outside like that anymore. So the closest I'm going to get is the porch. So it just makes sense to be here. I'm centrally located. We've got events here all the time, but it is big city feel, but you still have that space, especially downtown Arlington. You get that small town feel.
Yeah.
And it's cool. I go to the grocery store. The people there, they know me.
Yeah.
In fact, I got to go and take Miss Cynthia her birthday gift. Happy birthday, Miss Cynthia. But it's one of those things where you get the best of both worlds, I feel. I think Arlington is actually a pretty great representation of who Texas actually is because, sometimes we get the the tumbleweeds, and I'm like, baby, I ain't never seen a tumbleweed a day in my life.
Yeah.
What? But of course, we do have just down the street. We've got the rodeos and things like that. So I think Arlington is pretty cool.
Me too.
Yeah.
Me too.
I do slightly. Just slightly.
It's growing on him.
It's going to take a while.
So with all the different roles that you play as a mom and as a real estate agent, what does your day-to-day typically look like? Or are you pretty much winging it and things change all the time? Because I know that can be like that in the real estate industry.
It's kind of a combination because, I do a lot of folks that are actually transplants too. I do a lot of relocating clients. So with that being said, if my client from California just so happens to be in town, they never give you a heads up.
Yep.
Then, you have to be a little bit flexible. But I think there is a certain level of kind of commitment that you have to have, right? So it's just like I can't, with me wearing so many hats, I can't afford to just be all over the place. I do have to have structure.
Yeah.
And, with being a mom, navigating these new dating waters too is like, oh, let me fit you into my schedule. Are you available from this time?
Yeah.
Time?
In a month.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like, you just have to be extremely organized as best you can. And organization sometimes looks like what hat can I take off and trust to somebody else? So I have my transaction coordinator.
Yeah.
Because contracts can take a minute.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't have that kind of time. You know, we look at it, and generally speaking, the average contract is going to take, just to fill it out and things of that nature, we're looking at about anywhere from 5 to 10 hours.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, if I'm working 4 deals, that's 4 full to part-time jobs on just the paperwork.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's just important that we are committed to our schedule, and we have to know when to say no.
Yeah.
What does this do for my business?
Yeah.
So it's a learning curve there, I think, but
yeah,
it's definitely been worth it to get that structure.
Yeah.
So what you're saying is real estate agents don't have just an abundance of free time that everybody thinks they're going to have when they come to real estate.
Not most folks. I know some top agents that are really doing it, where they have been able to have their systems in place, where they're organized enough that they can take off most of their hats and still be productive. But I think people watch way too much Selling Sunset.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, baby, if you are, our price points are very different all over the place. And I'm just like, honey, it is a misconception of what real estate agents are actually doing, because we have these reality shows. You've never seen any one of those folks write a contract of their own.
Yeah.
No, you see them touring these beautiful luxury homes that they're going to have these massive commissions. And I had to have a talk with one of my clients with this new NAR thing coming out, and he's a sweet guy, and he was like, Jari, you're gonna make all this money. I said, baby, this house is X amount. If I just sold your one house this year, baby, I'd be in poverty. So no, please don't get super excited about that.
Yeah.
But it's just like, having to have those conversations, and I'm very transparent with my clients.
Yeah.
Before they're my clients. Before they are my clients, this is what you can expect from me, because I think we need to be fair. I think we need to be transparent. And I only want to work with people who do want to work with me. It makes my job a lot easier, and it makes their process a lot easier, even when I may have to deliver them not so good news, because it's not always good news.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So I think just making sure that they know this is not a reality show. This is real life, and this is one of the largest purchases you're going to make in your life. And
It's
we
a
need
big
to be
deal.
serious about this, and I'm very serious about that for you. So
yeah.
That was a lot.
So tell us about some of your favorite client experiences, or your craziest, scariest client experiences, if you've ever had those.
I'm going to interject here. I saw one on Facebook. She was talking about some family that she was helping. They wanted you to marry their son. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Oh.
Yes.
Yeah, he's like an Arabian king or something like that.
They are from Nigeria, and man, I have fallen in love with my Nigerian clients. They are hilarious. Nigerians are a very passionate people.
Yeah.
They are very, very passionate. And these clients, this is going to be a long contract. We're doing a pretty big build for them. And it's going to be we have about 16 months left. They have a son who lives in Austin, and he is a pilot. And they are convinced that I am their daughter-in-law.
Are you convinced? Oh, whoa.
Oh.
Way I feel like if God has told you something, baby, at some point he will tell me too. So we shall see. But right now, we are on papers. And, I don't want to muddy the waters. My father-in-law has told me that I've lost too much weight, and he is reconsidering. So
Oh, no.
he is so sweet, though. Every time I see him, Jari, what are you eating? Are the people in your house, are they eating too? Do your sons need me to bring anything? I will have my wife cook for you. All the time. They always want to cook for me. They're so sweet. I love them so much. They have taken care of me in the form of they send me a lot of their family too. So it's been
That's
a
great.
blessing.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, y'all, please do not put too much pressure on me to marry your son because that's going to be awkward. Y'all seem to love me more than you love him. So, but it's been fun. They are a great family, though. They really are. I like them a lot.
Oh.
So other than that instance, is there any memorable closings is there any memorable closings that stick out to you that really meant a lot to you?
Yes. I have a family that I've been a part of their family since before I was doing real estate. Very close with a sister. And she's here. So I met her in my corporate job. She was like my work mom. I love her so much. Well, her sister that I'd met before was moving here from California. And we started talking about their move, I want to say about 2 years ago. And we had some things that we had to work through. And I didn't give up on them. I was just like, okay, here's what we got to do. We got to do this. We got to do that. And for 2 years, we worked together. And we got them under contract. And circumstances started circumstancing.
Mm.
And I just was like, no, God said this was your house. And we're going to fight through it. I just knew. There was something that I just knew. My lender partner at the time was just like, Jari, I don't know. I'm like, yeah, but and I'm not typically like that because, again, I want to be realistic. But I just was like, I'm going to fight for this until God says stop.
Yeah.
And that's the conversation I had with them. I'm looking at the contract. I'm looking at what we're up against. And I'm like, we are going to absolutely keep fighting this thing until we are told no.
Mm-hmm.
And I never got that we couldn't do it. And I know my lender partner was panicking. He was panicking. This was probably the first closing that I had where I actually cried.
Oh.
And it wasn't because I didn't think we could get them in the house. There was just literally there was just this knowing. I'm like, no, I knew this was your home.
Yeah.
And I cried. I cried with them. They were so happy. We did it. And yeah, I mean, now that's not to say I haven't had situations where I have to deliver that bad news.
Yeah.
Hey, this might not be our time right now.
Mm-hmm.
I never tell them you can't.
Yeah.
Because who am I? Who am I to tell you what you can't do?
Yeah.
I will ask them how bad they want it.
Yeah.
Because, you got to be disciplined. If you want something, hey, this is your house, honey. I'm just here to help you get in it.
Yeah.
So I have those conversations too, but this family absolutely wanted, and they had a big reason to be here, relocating wise. And so I just knew that it was my duty to help them exhaust every single option.
Yeah.
And if we had to revisit, okay. But I wasn't going to stop until something said, we just can't. And that never came, praise God.
Yeah.
So they've been here now for about 6 months.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
That's a great story. I feel like just the stories that impact us the most is, like you said, whenever you feel like called to do something and like, okay, I'm going to keep fighting at this until it happens. When that succeeds and you just feel that, sense of like, okay, we did it. We took care of this person. And I'm sure that was just a really cool experience for you as an agent too. And to build that relationship that, I'm sure y'all have a bond a lot different than maybe some of your other clients that you've been able to help because you went through that together.
Yeah. And then, of course, like I said, they kind of were already family.
Yeah.
Right. So
Right.
That sealed the deal.
Yeah, that kind of was just like, okay, I have to do this because, again, there was a greater reason for them to be here.
Yeah.
Them moving here wasn't just, it was I want to move to Texas, but there was also a necessity, right?
Yeah.
So I knew I had to make this work.
Yeah.
I had to make this work, and we did. But I love all my clients the same.
Yeah.
Like, I try to treat everybody absolutely the same. I don't care what price point we are. I tell them to, hey, you can't get that $500,000 house for $1,500. It's just not that market. We're not in that season.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
We were never in
sometimes
that
I have to
season.
be like, yeah. I'm just like, My favorite question is when they tell me what number and we've not gone through the lending process. I always ask them, okay, how did we get on that number? What was our reasoning for that? And usually they have a reason. But again, I think rather than just abandon somebody who maybe just doesn't know, I've come across people who this was the first purchase their entire family's ever had. So there is an educational component there.
Yes, it's huge.
It is huge. And I think if we just took the time, but you got to want to take the time. There's a difference because, you know, it's just very easy to get caught up in padding pockets. And I'm more in the space of let me take care of you in this way. Let's do this in the right order, because if we're looking biblically, God did everything in an order.
Yeah.
And it's not just I'm going to just abandon you.
Yeah.
Now, that's not to say I haven't seen folks jump ship, but it's never because I've told them to. But sometimes, you know, people just aren't ready to hear some
realistic
realness.
realness. Yeah. 100%.
But I would never sleep if I done felt like I bamboozled somebody into getting into something and now they're compromised.
Yeah.
I would never be able to sleep like that.
100%.
Yeah.
I think creating realistic expectations is a huge thing to do up front. I know a lot of people in the business that don't do that because, like you said, they're padding pockets. They're just seeing them as a dollar sign and not seeing them as like a family member or a friend or like yourself. So that's it just shows who you are as an agent, you know, really, and not just an agent, but who you are as a person, because you care about them more than them buying a home.
Yeah. Now, that's not to say I haven't seen sometimes where I'm like, Lord, it would be really nice. But at the same time, like I said, I'm happy to say, hey, maybe just right now is not our time.
Yeah.
And we'll stay in touch.
Yeah.
If I see anything that works, great. If not,
continue to work.
We'll continue.
Yeah.
That's all it's about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What kind of characteristics do you feel like are necessary for this career? Because you've talked a little bit about the things that you possess that help you with these clients and in these situations. What do you feel like is necessary to do well in this career?
I do think that you should have compassion to the people that you are serving.
Yeah.
I think that's number one. Do I think it exists in all spaces in this business?
No.
Absolutely not.
Yeah.
But from where I'm standing, I think it is necessary. I think that you should also have some grit about yourself, because one minute you're up, the next minute you're down. But I think you should take those down moments to figure out how to get back up. I think a lot of people give up on themselves in this business too easily. I think that unfortunately in this business, there's a lot of what it looks like and not what it actually is. I've seen agents literally go into debt trying to portray an image of who they are. I'm just not going to do that. We're going to ride this camera till the wheels fall off. The Lord says that we got to do something different. I'm just not going to do that. I think that it's important to be who you are. So that was one of the things I learned very early in this business, because if you try to be someone else, and this is just kind of life, but if you try to be somebody else, eventually that mask is going to come off. And again, I only want to work with people who want to work with me.
Yeah.
Genuinely. So when I have people that are coming to me, and I think this is where social media is important, I get to just be myself in that space. So when they meet me in person, even though I may not exactly know who they are, they kind of already have an idea of who they're getting.
Yeah.
But I think that's the other thing about social media. People get caught up on what things look like very easily. And it can make or break you. So I just choose not to even put myself in a position where I'm running risks for that. So I think authenticity is big. Kindness. Man, some of these agents are mean, like just for no reason.
Horrible. I'll be honest. Horrible. Gracie hears some of my calls, and I'm like, woo, that was...
that person's having a bad day.
I was like, that person was rough.
Yeah, I had somebody yelled at me.
No.
Yeah, and I'm like...
Did you clap back?
So the Lord has
Respectfully.
delivered me because my clapbacks were just full standing ovations and round of applauses. I used to read a room for filth back in my day.
Gracie, that sounds a lot like you.
But I
Yes.
literally just remember being on that call, and I just called her name firmly 3 times. I said, "Ma'am, you are doing a job for your client, same way I'm doing a job for mine. I am not your child. Now let's get to the closing table." And she calmed down, but that's pretty much how I try to be just
Yeah.
with anybody, because it does go back to my faith. I genuinely think that we are all children of the Most High, whether we have the same beliefs or not. So my
Yeah.
only duty is to treat you
Mm-hmm.
the way that my father would treat you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so but he ain't say be no fool now. You can't just handle me any kind of way. But beloved,
Yeah.
let's calm down
Yeah.
and let's get this thing taken care of, because at the end of the day, everybody just wants to close.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm not easily intimidated. I like to call myself a dolphin in this business. I'm not a shark. I'm not hyper aggressive. I'm gentle. Everybody wants to play with me. But dolphins can be violent if
Yeah,
they need to be.
there's some fun facts about dolphins. Go look them up.
So yeah, don't look up the real bad stuff. I don't fall in those categories. Like, let me just be clear. Let me be clear here, okay? But yeah, I just try to treat all ends of the transaction the way I would want to be represented.
Yeah.
You know, I tell my clients we're not going to do no low balling.
Mm.
Like, these numbers got to make sense. My name is also attached to this baby.
Correct.
Yeah.
So I think it's just important that we just treat people decent. Like, it's not asking too much to just be kind.
100%.
Yeah.
A lot of folks in this
Yeah.
business like to turn their nose up at other people, and I'm just like, but what are you getting out of it?
Yeah.
It's that
Yeah.
lack.
Yeah.
Is what it boils down to. I think a lot of people just move in a lack space, and hopefully
Yeah.
they grow.
Yeah.
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 Absolutely. I think there's been many circumstances in probably each of our situations where people don't treat us like people, and it's just hard to believe that anybody is willing to like degrade somebody in that way. But like you said, it's kind of just understanding like this is who they are. They're a child like made in God's image, just like anybody else, and I'm just gonna love them regardless. I'm gonna treat them with respect and hope that resonates with them, and they have the opportunity. I mean, I've had many clients or partners or
Guns
whoever,
blazing.
and then just the way that you react in that situation says a lot about you.
Yeah.
And then they end up coming back and saying, "Oh, sorry, I was a little bit rude or whatever." And it gives you the opportunity to say, well, by God's grace, I'm make mistakes too, but I understand we've all been there, but we can work through it. So just a good opportunity to see people like you said, the way that God sees them.
But don't talk out the side of your mouth. Let's just make that clear. Don't do that. Just people are. We may be in sales jobs, and I hope there's somebody on here that needs to hear this. But I know most of the people don't. We are people. We have the same problems that you have. Have civil conversations, please. I'm done. Sorry.
Off your
Amen.
TED Talk.
But okay, let me ask you this: if you could go back to 18-year-old Jarielle and give her some advice, what would you say?
Ooh,
That's a good question.
that is a great question. It would be a couple days of that would be a long conversation. I gotta say that, but I think the first thing would be to have a little bit of faith in yourself, girl. You're capable of a lot of things. Don't be so scared of everything, because I think sometimes, and I know for me, but I think just as people, we'll have these big ideas about what we can do, what we want to do. But then again, our circumstances will tell us you can't do that. You don't deserve to have that. Nobody in your family did that. Why would you be the one to do that?
Yeah.
So I would encourage her to be a lot more confident. Confidence would have kept me out of a lot of trouble back then. Just knowing my worth
Yeah.
would have kept me out of a lot of trouble.
Yeah.
So I think just finding the value in who I have always been, right? But then, of course, life tells us otherwise.
Yeah.
So I think I just would have had her know that she could do all things.
Yeah.
Yeah. In a
That's
nutshell.
awesome. That kind of leads into our last question. So greater than real estate, the whole premise of it is we want agents to know that you are greater than just being a real estate agent. So where do you find your worth and your identity?
Outside of being your favorite homegirl, outside of that, I genuinely find purpose and joy in helping people heal and grow. When I started taking those layers off of myself, it did something for me. And so when I have conversations with my girlfriends now and I'm talking to them, nobody can come to me and not be accountable. You know, I'm not a yes man. My girlfriends know if they ask me, was I wrong? Well, sis, you know, you weren't moving very Christ-like in that situation. You know,
Yeah.
I do have those conversations with them, and it's all from love. It's not a judgment. It's literally just, I love you enough to tell you this was an opportunity.
Yeah.
And that's actually where I find my purpose. I want people to be who they are, but I think there's a difference between being who you are and knowing whose you are. And once I got that down, I was just like, I got to go and share this. I got to go and tell everybody. So that's what you mainly see on my social media, specifically Facebook. I'm mainly talking about the things that I learned on this journey. So, yep.
I love that. I feel like you are just a healing presence and a light. And so we've really enjoyed, I know I won't speak for Joel, but
Yeah,
I
it's
know
been
we've
bad.
really
No.
enjoyed, I've just enjoyed getting to know you, getting to know your story, getting to have you on the podcast just to hear more about who you are. And I just can't wait to, continue to get to know you more and have this friendship grow. So
Thank
you
you
for
guys
being
for
here.
having me.
Yeah, it
Thank
was.
you so much.
You are super genuine, super intentional. I think the one thing, if I leave you with any encouragement, you are continuing to grow, and the amount of people that are going to be impacted by you is going to be huge because of your genuine, your intentionality, and most of all, your transparency. So,
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, we made it.
And that wraps it up. We want to give a big shout out to Kendra and Dante at Tap In Studios. If you guys want to do a podcast, give us a shout. They're based out of Arlington, and they're an amazing group to work with, always with the highest quality. And we want to give a big shout out to Jarielle Wilson with DOS Pro for coming and being a great presence on this podcast. So appreciate it.
Yeah.
Thank you, guys. Thank you. It's so fun.
Yep.
Hope to come back.